like another day for foul weather. There's a storm brewing. I can feel it in my bad toe. They're almost here, Mr. Maple. The motorboat's at the dock.
Must you shout, Haversham? No one in this house is deaf that I know of.
Oh, it's you, Miss Alsborough. I thought it was Mr. Maple I heard coming down the stairs.
He'll be along directly. Can you see how many have come over on the motorboat?
Not at this distance. The fog's rolling in. Mr. Maple said they'd all come, though.
Did he?
New hat?
Never mind about this hat box.
No need to get all jangled. I was only asking.
You tend to your duties, I'll tend to mine.
You tend to your duties, I'll tend to mine.
Haversham, have my guests arrived yet?
They're at the landing, Mr. Maple. I think they're all here.
Not one of them will fail to show up. I can guarantee it.
But you don't even know them.
I know, and that's what will make this weekend such fun. And you mustn't say I don't know them. I know them quite well.
Miss Alsborough said you'd all be strangers to one another.
Well, in one sense that is correct, but in another sense that is erroneous. Oh, I do wish you wouldn't sniffle, Haversham. It's quite distracting.
Yes, sir.
And when we're at dinner, don't wipe your nose on your apron.
No, sir.
Haversham, what's wrong with your uniform?
How do you mean, Mr. Maple?
Why, it looks large enough for a half a dozen people. Can you take it in just a smidge?
Wouldn't do no good. No matter what I put on, I'll look like a potato sack.
Well, maybe if you don't sniffle so much, no one will notice the uniform.
Yes, sir.
Do you know where Rita is?
I'm right here, Mr. Maple.
Goodness, you startled me, Rita. You have a bad habit of creeping up on me.
Like poison ivy.
Haversham, you're forgetting yourself.
Sorry, sir.
Rita, do you know where the list is? I seem to have misplaced it.
On the desk, Mr. Maple.
Oh, of course, the most logical place. No wonder I didn't think of it. Haversham, you are sure you'll be able to handle the kitchen?
Won't be no trouble. Not when the cook and helper come from San Francisco.
The agency said we could expect them later this evening. It was the best they could do.
Well, we'll manage. The list, Rita.
Beg pardon, Mr. Maple. I'm not sure I understood.
Understood what?
You said your weekend guests were strangers, yet they weren't.
Oh, yes. What I mean is, I know them by their writings.
I don't expect Haversham reads a great deal.
Well, surely you've read a mystery novel or two.
Can't say that I have. I like gothic romance and stories about nurses in love with doctors. Every once in a while, I'll enjoy a horror comic, if the cover is gory enough.
Merciful heavens!
Ladies, please, I insist on decorum at all times.
Of course. Whatever you say, Mr. Maple.
Now then, each guest is a famous detective mystery writer, but he or she will not be arriving as himself or herself, as the case may be. Instead, each guest will arrive as his or her creation.
Creation?
Yes, each guest will arrive as his or her alter ego.
I don't think she understands.
I'm trying to.
Each guest will arrive as a detective hero or heroine of their books. They're not to use their real names or personalities, and they're coming from all over the country. Oh, it'll be such fun.
Yes, sir.
Although I do suspect they'll know something of my little project. Few mystery writers don't, despite all the secrecy.
Little project?
Oh, it's no concern of yours. Just make sure that the biscuits are warm and the sherry is room temperature.
Yes, sir.
Now then, first on the list is Lisa Fan, the famous anime comic detective. Then there's Father White. He uses the psychological approach. And then there's Peter Flimsey. He's very much in the Sherlock Holmes school.
He's a student?
No. Haversham, you are quite hopeless.
I expect I am.
Why don't you just go run down to the dock and guide them up to the house, will you?
I wish the cook and helper would hurry up and get here.
Do you really think that Haversham is suited to this work?
Well, I promised the parole people I would give her a place to stay. We just have to be patient with her, Rita, that's all.
Parole people? You mean she's an ex-convict?
No. I mean she's still a convict.
Still a convict?
Oh, Rita, stop repeating everything I say. You're sounding like a mynah bird. The truth is simple enough. She's on a work program.
Work program? Sorry.
If all works out well, her sentence will be reduced and she'll be put on permanent parole. However, much will depend upon my report.
What was her, crime?
I don't recall specifics, but I seem to remember some unpleasantness with a hatchet.
A hatchet?
Oh, Rita, compose yourself. There will be enough melodrama when my guests arrive. Now then, next on the list is Chandler Marlowe. Now there's a man to trifle with. Seedy down and out, but intelligent in a brutish sort of way. A true male chauvinist.
I wish I had known about Haversham before I took this job. She doesn't like me, you know?
Then there's Rick and Laura Carlyle. Oh, what a witty couple. So sophisticated, so urbane. I'll enjoy their company quite a lot.
Unpleasantness with a hatchet could mean almost anything. What if the storm is as bad as the one last week? We were cut off for 2 days.
Well, we are plenty stocked with foodstuffs, so there's nothing to worry about, Rita.
Haversham? I recall the name. It was a famous case.
I will say, I had second thoughts about inviting Charity Hayes. A little too much like James Bond for my taste. Still, she's a superb bridge player. All in all, a wonderful menage.
Come along. He's waiting. Lucky you got across before the storm.
Oh, they've arrived. Excellent.
Ah, you must be Mr. Maple. Delighted, delighted.
I am not Mr. Maple.
Hey,
I am Mr. Maple.
I'd know you anywhere. Delighted, delighted.
And you must be Father White.
How did you guess?
Hardly a guess, sir. Your clerical caller.
First rule is psychological detection. Disregard the obvious, concentrate on the possible. I may be Lisa Fan in disguise.
Touché, touché. You are a master. My social secretary and companion, Miss Islesborough.
How do you do, my dear?
Welcome to Turkey Island.
To the best of my knowledge, only one other island in history has been called Turkey. A battle was fought there in the Aegean Sea. 4th century BC, the Spartans versus the Maltese.
I don't think there is any connection. This island used to be a turkey farm.
Oh,
Please be seated. Sherry and warm biscuits will be served shortly. And I wonder who this could be.
Take a look at this thin nose, brother. These gray eyes, this jaw of stone. It ain't Charity Hayes.
No, it ain't. Oh, goodness, I mean, isn't. Your dialogue is infectious, Chandler Marlowe.
I know.
My social secretary and companion, Miss Islesborough.
How do, sister?
Welcome to Turkey Island.
Please be seated. Sherry and warm biscuits will be served shortly. And unmistakably, Miss Fan.
First rule of Far East detection. Disregard the obvious. I may be Laura Carlyle in a costume.
Indeed, indeed. My social secretary and companion, Miss Islesborough.
No need, no need. I overheard on the balcony. Welcome to Turkey Island. Most unusual portrait.
and then I told him it was fantastic. Oh,
how good of you to accept my invitation. I'd recognize you anywhere, Mr. and Mrs. Carlyle.
Not necessarily. It could be the cook and the helper you're expecting.
Well, we're going to have such a wonderful time. Oh, and you brought your little dog, too.
We couldn't bring our real Bow Wow.
He gets seasick.
I told Laura, who's gonna know it's Rick and Laura without their pooch Napoleon?
Almost anyone.
Oh, do make yourselves comfortable.
Sharing warm biscuits shortly.
Ah, welcome, welcome. Delighted to have you on Turkey Island, Peter Flimsey.
I could hardly resist the weekend at any establishment with the name of a Ravenswood Manor. It conjures up images of the English moors, dark, brooding, mysterious.
You talk like the way you write. My spinal fluid has turned to frost.
He's a continental gentleman.
One of a vanishing breed, Rick.
Don't look sanitary to me, slobbering over a dame's knuckles like that.
I detect the dubious charm of Chandler Marlowe.
Park it here, Flimsy.
are we all here?
I believe so, yes.
No, Mr. Maple, there's one more.
One more.
Charity Hayes.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Silly of me. Come on in, Charity Hayes. Don't keep us all waiting.
Charity Hayes is some woman. Come on in, baby.
I don't think my sniffles is clearing up, Mr. Maple. I think I'm coming down with something.
Haversham, where is Charity Hayes?
Who? The other lady on the boat.
What's in this room is it.
She wasn't with us on the boat. We assumed she had arrived earlier.
Well, I've never had an invitation of mine ignored before.
Maybe she'll come on the other boat?
Well, not unless the storm blows up. Haversham, fetch refreshments, please.
Yes, sir.
I wonder who does her dresses.
I thought we'd all just snack a little bit before dinner. I hope you all like blue cheese fondue.
I'll see that everything's prepared upstairs.
Thank you, Rita.
Interesting woman, that Miss Owlsbarrow. Has she been with you long?
Barely a month. Why do you ask?
When the moment is right, I shall harvest my deduction.
There's no reason to be so mysterious, Miss Fan.
Are we gonna sit around and chew the fat?
It's either that or blue cheese fondue.
Let's chew the fat.
Ladies and gentlemen, we mustn't get off the subject. There are ground rules here.
I'm concerned about the storm.
There's nothing to worry about. Haversham, get a hold of yourself.
She got a perm, she advertising pancake syrup.
She's hysterical.
I don't see anything amusing about her. Never mind. Haversham, take a deep breath in, and out, and in again, and out. Good. Now tell us, why did you scream like that?
It's the only way I know how to scream.
No. What caused you to scream? What frightened you?
I saw a face at the window.
Face at the window?
A man's face.
Can you describe him?
No. He had his nose pressed up against the window pane.
Well, that's what you get for reading all those comics with gory covers. It's probably just the man from the boat.
No, I'd recognize him.
Perhaps it was a peeping Tom.
Please, Ravenswood Manor would be unsuitable to raid. The only people that live here are myself, Haversham, Rita, and the butler, of course.
He's got a point.
Besides, storms always frighten Haversham. Your refreshments, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
How long has Haversham worked for you?
Not long. Why do you ask?
I seem to recall the face.
It's not one that you'd forget in a hurry, especially in that dress.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. I will go over the ground rules, and then we will proceed with our little charade. If you don't know me personally, and none of you do, you'll know of my reputation for amusing weekend parties. I am recognized as an outstanding host with a fine imagination for all the bizarre and unique.
The same was said of Sherlock Holmes.
Then I am in first-rate company. You've all done well so far.
You couldn't tell us from our literary counterparts.
No, and that's what makes it so charming. However, I insist that you keep up the little game at all times. I forbid you to use your real names or personalities. And don't try anything. I'll be watching. And listening. And if the weekend goes the way I trust it will, you will all receive wonderful news. News that will benefit you. Financially, of course. I trust you're all willing to play along.
Why not?
Sure.
I'm with you, brother, all the way.
Oh, goodness, Chandler. You are a rare customer indeed.
I prefer to think of myself as well done.
Well done.
What's his game?
You cannot be serious.
Rick is always serious when he hears the word financially. Money, like sweet-smelling flowers, attracts the bumblebees.
Are you calling us bumblebees?
If the shoe fits.
No, bumblebees don't wear shoes.
It's a figure of speech, Chandler. Dreadful syntax, but colorful. Typical of the amusing Lisa Fan.
May I ask something?
Be my guest, sister.
Why are we all still talking like this?
How do you mean?
We can relax. Be ourselves. Talk naturally.
I am talking normally. This is the way I always talk.
Quite.
I wear this collar, but my speech is my own.
A man who loses his identity seldom finds himself.
Whatever that means.
Laura and I aren't any different than our fashionable East Side Manhattan apartment. Right, Napoleon?
Mr. Maple is a most enterprising man. He's also, as the vulgarism goes, filthy rich. If he wants another scalp on his famous parties list, I'll volunteer mine. I'll eagerly humor him.
Most generous.
Who are you kidding, Flimsy? Sure, the old Mr. Maple is famous for his weekend parties. The way I see it, he's going to open up a chain of bookstores.
Bookstores?
Detective bookstores.
Detective bookstores?
Of course. None of y'all knew about that, did you? We're all here for the same reason. And it ain't to sample the blue cheese fondue.
Forget the fondue.
That won't be easy.
So, in other words, you think we are here to win Mr. Maple's favor?
Thereby ensuring our detective novels a place on the shelves, as it were.
That's the name of the game.
Well, what of it? I don't imagine the Charity Hayes books are going to be on Mr. Maple's shelves. Business is business, and if Mr. Maple wants to play games, before placing an order with the publishers, I say why not?
Bravo.
I imagine you're glad about this. Most of your stuff is out of print.
If you weren't a man of cloth, I'd have some choice words for you.
Lisa's comics aren't doing much better. Even the Junior Comic-Con turned her down.
Beware the dragon's wrath.
The only thing dragging about you is your book sales.
This is no way to start a weekend. This should be a light, happy occasion. How about some music?
Good idea. I'll get something. I hope the static won't be too heavy. The storm can cause interference.
We interrupt this program of light chamber music to bring you a special news bulletin. A dangerous murderer has escaped from the Marion County Institute for the Criminally Insane, known only as the Killer of 40 Faces. The prisoner seized a rowboat at land and was last seen heading into a fog bank on the approach to Turkey Island. Now back to our Mozart concerto.
Can it be true? What about the mysterious face the maid saw at the window?
40 faces. Now there's a master of disguise.
Biscuits and sherry are served.
My congratulations, Mr. Maple.
What are you talking about?
Classic touch. I've used it several times in my own novels.
Isolated on a lonely house, then BAM! Radio or television flash. Mad killer on the prowl.
Oh, you're all too clever for me. Still, I did think it was a little amusing.
A masterstroke.
Bravo.
Too kind, too kind. It's not easy to fool detective writers. Haversham, serve the sherry.
Yes, sir.
Let's hear it again.
By all means, it was most amusing.
Couldn't have done it better myself.
Here goes.
I accuse.
Oh dear, that's not it.
I accuse.
Get it like you had it the first time.
I can't. It's all there is.
Step back from the console.
I don't understand.
Chandler Marlowe.
Me?
Chandler Marlowe, I accuse you of a foul crime. You cannot escape your past.
Foul crime.
It's a gag. That's all. Right, brother?
Lisa Fan, remember that night in Tokyo? I accuse you of treachery.
I have never visited the illustrious city of Tokyo.
Rick and Laura Carlisle, what does the name Tulip mean to you both? I accuse you of unforgivable deceit.
Tulip. Tulip.
I seem to recall that voice.
Father White, why are you really here at Ravenswood Manor?
I was invited.
I accuse you of sinister motives and shaming your calling.
It would seem that you've all been up to some mischief.
Peter Flimsey, what's happened on the cricket field at Eton?
Eton? I haven't been there in years.
I accuse you of dishonor.
Shall I set out the biscuits?
Hold your tongue. Are you trying to be funny?
Sorry, it's my nerves.
Charity Hayes, I accuse you of murder.
Murder? I don't know anything about murder. Why are you all looking at me? I'm not Charity Hayes.
You have heard the accusations. You cannot escape. You will be punished.
It's a gag. That's all.
Mr. Maple,
Yes?
what is the real secret of Ravenswood Manor?
Is that all?
That is all.
I
outdone yourself, Mr. Maple.
Very original.
Effective, theatrical, once again classic. I used it in my best-selling novel, Crime at Coffin Corner.
I used it in Murder at the Masquerade.
I respectfully submit my title, serialized in several popular magazines. Crime is a puzzlement.
Don't forget I used the gimmick in Murder Mops Up.
Laura and I employed it in our clever yet sophisticated Manhattan Murders.
Rick, I think I'd like to go to our room now.
Sounds sensible. Could do with a slap of aftershave.
Point the way, brother.
Are you talking to me? Oh, yes, of course you are. I'm sorry. Yes, down the hall, up the stairs, and you'll find your names on your doors.
Most delightful interlude, honorable host.
Thank you, Miss Moto. Yes.
Fan.
Fan?
Her name is Fan. You call her Moto.
Yes, of course. I'm sorry.
May I present a question?
Yes, please do.
That man in that portrait, is he an honorable ancestor?
Ancestor, yes. Why, he's my father, yes.
His name, please.
His name? Why, his name is Mr. Maple, of course.
Most compelling face, your father.
Excuse me. But what about the biscuits? They'll get stale.
Who put that other tape on the machine?
I thought you did.
Don't be foolish. My tape was the first tape.
They were scared, you guessed.
Oh, you noticed that too, huh?
They tried to cover it up, but I know a room full of scared pigeons when I see them.
We're in for a bad time with the storm.
The lights might go.
Oh, where is Rita when I need her?
I'm right here, Mr. Maple.
Rita, why didn't you tell me about that other tape on the machine?
The one you put on the machine?
No, the one accusing my guests of dark crimes.
I don't know a thing about it, Mr. Maple.
Rita, why do you always carry that hat box with you? What's in the hat box?
Nothing.
Then why carry it?
I'd better check on the supplies the motorboat unloaded at the dock.
She's acting strangely.
A weird customer, Mr. Maple. She put on the other tape, I bet. I'd keep an eye on her if I was you.
Well, you're not me. Come along to the kitchen. I'd like to check on the blue cheese fondue.
Someone said something about biscuits and sherry. Anyone about?
Who are you talking to, Mr. Carlyle?
You've been outside?
I was going to the dock, but it started raining heavily and the wind is up.
What's in the box?
What would you expect to find in a hat box, sir?
Strange lady.
About what?
The missing glass of sherry and absent biscuits.
Who's that?
Lisa Fan, a well-known anime detective.
Not her, him.
It's Rick.
It can't be.
Don't look, Miss Carlyle.
Whatever you think is best.
Is he dead?
Dead?
How dead?
How dead can you get?
The voice on the radio. It said we'd be punished.
A figurine fell off the mantle.
It's broken.
most classic. As each one of us is punished, a figurine will fall off the mantle. There are 9 in this room, and 9 figurines on the mantle.
3.
Explain, please.
There aren't 9 figurines on the mantle. There are only 3.
Only 3. Must readjust my deduction.
Never mind that. This is serious. We have a dead man over here.
Oh, this is not going at all how I planned. Chandler, what does it all mean?
Mean? It means murder, Mr. Maple.
Murder?
Murder. Turkey Island.
Chandler, this is no time to be walking about outside. You could catch something that wet.
The only thing I want to catch is the killer.
Quite sure the poor fellow is dead then.
The killer?
I mean, Rip Carlisle.
Me and Flimsy stretched him out on a table down in the cellar. He's still there. The dead don't walk.
Fear Mr. Maple's little charade has taken quite a nasty turn.
Never saw a murder that wasn't nasty.
You're used to crime in the streets then?
The streets are my beat. Fancy dumps like Ravenswood Manor are a bit rich for my blood.
Am I intruding?
No, my dear. Don't wait us.
Get me sleep, baby.
Dropped off the lid in my head with the pillow.
Grief does that.
Chandler, you're all wet.
I know. The docks are nearly gone. The storm's torn up the piling. If the cook and the helper get here, my name ain't Chandler Marlowe.
Your name isn't Chandler Marlowe. I mean, not really.
You're a stickler for details, Padre.
I suppose you're wondering why I've taken Rick's demise so lightly.
You ain't exactly used up a Kleenex box with the waterworks.
Well, truth of the matter is, Rick and I have been estranged for some time. Would you like to hear about it?
Not really, Laura, my dear. Domestic troubles are quite beyond my comprehension. Man of the cloth and all that.
Private things should stay private. I've looked through enough keyholes to know that.
If you insist. He was interested in another woman. Or perhaps more correctly, the other woman was interested in him.
Dames will get you every time.
Did you know the creature?
Rick or the other woman?
The other woman?
Not exactly. I had a private investigator investigate her.
What sort of person was she?
Fascinating, I suppose, but unscrupulous. Her name was MABLE DUPRE.
What's it now?
What are you talking about?
You said her name was Mabel Dupre. What's it now?
That is a stupid question, Chandler.
It's your stupid answer then.
A leopard doesn't change her spots. I suppose her name is still Mabel Dupre.
Did the proud investigator come up with anything?
Not much. She moves around, never stays in one place for too long. He did find out one thing of interest, however.
Oh?
She had a violent temper.
Sounds like my kind of woman.
I can well understand the attraction. Mabel Dupre the Flame, Rick Carlisle the Moth.
Only he got burned. Bad.
Classic tragedy.
I love that man of mine. He'd still be by my side if it weren't for that vampire.
Speaking of vampires, Mr. Maple has quite the collection of Victorian novels. Some are quite ghoulish.
Not my type of stuff. I cover the pavement.
Do you think she might be mixed up in your husband's death?
Who?
Mabel Dupre.
A woman like that is capable of anything.
So you're positive you've never crossed paths with her?
Never set eyes on the woman, except I did hear her voice.
When?
Where?
In my contemporary Manhattan apartment weeks ago, before the invitation arrived. The phone rang and I answered, and the operator said person-to-person call from Mabel Dupre to Rick Carlisle. Then I heard her voice.
What'd she say?
She said hello.
What did you say?
I said, if you know what's good for you, you'll never try and contact my husband again, or else.
Or else what?
I'd rather not say.
Oh, this is all so distressing. Fun and games are one thing, but murder is quite another.
Amen, brother. Murder ain't no parlor game.
Chandler, you're all wet.
I've been outside.
Well, obviously. Oh, what am I going to do?
No telephone anywhere in the house.
None. No wireless or a citizen's band either.
It's a cinch. No boat was gonna get here till morning.
Oh, and what about poor Rick, too?
He ain't going nowhere. I thought you were gonna help me outside. For all we know, the killer's still prowling around, waiting his next victim.
Wait, you mean he may strike again?
He. Or she. Female's the deadly species.
Chandler, you're all wet.
Don't sit, or I'll give you a knuckle sandwich.
Your sort would resort to brute force.
It's been my secret to success.
If brute force were all, the tiger would not fear the scorpion.
There you go, talking about bugs again.
Miss Moto, have you discovered anything that might shed light on the terrible situation at Ravenswood Manor?
Fan.
What?
Her name is Fan. You said Moto.
Oh, did I? How peculiar.
Please enter.
So you have discovered something then?
Please be seated, Mr. Maple. I will presently name the murderer of once semi-famous Rick Carlisle.
What?
Who is it?
Patience, all will be revealed.
I have a feeling the killer's name would begin with the letter M.
What?
I said the killer's name would begin with the letter M.
Oh, this is getting us nowhere. Although I do hope the suspense will last.
The guy we need here is PHARAOH Link.
Who?
Top detective on the Frisco force?
I'm not unfamiliar with his name. However, since he doesn't write detective fiction, he wasn't on my list of invitees.
What's all this business about the letter M?
The deceased was mixed up with another doll.
Mabel Dupre.
Please, I know nothing of the letter M.
Comes right after L.
Sorry.
Why should this Dupre woman poison Rick Carlisle?
I know her sort. Unpredictable, quick-tempered. A woman like that is capable of anything.
What's her motive, though?
Obvious. Rick preferred me and told her so. Mabel Dupre vowed vengeance.
Proof?
No proof. Woman's intuition.
Intuition ain't no substitute for logic.
We must get the choo-choo train back on track. The clue was in the recording.
If you're talking about those accusations, I have no idea what the poor fellow was talking about. I'm only here because I was invited.
The killer knew each one of us, intimately, and he hates detective mystery writers. I shall now name the murderer. You. You are the murderer.
Mr. Maple's father.
Correction, please. That is a portrait of famed historian Ludwig Flush.
But why should Ludwig Flush want to do us harm?
Early in his career, Ludwig Flush published detective novels under the pen name Antonia Cheddar, failed miserably, turned psychotic, and devoted his life to the subject of ancient history.
You mean his sense of frustration is so fierce that he'd punish successful detective writers?
I've heard of weirder customers.
Where is he now?
In this house?
At
I know! He must have been the face at the window.
Not possible.
Well, why not?
Ludwig Flush is confined to a wheelchair due to advancing age.
A nice theory, but it won't hold water.
Just like this coat I'm wearing. It's damper than a lunch counter rag.
I have proof. What proof, I wonder?
I'm afraid Miss Fan gets carried away. She does that in her work, too. I never could make much sense out of her novels. One finds more clarity in a fortune cookie.
Behold, incriminating evidence.
Girl, what?
A wheelchair? I don't see what that proves.
Mr. Maple, why did you lie? Why did you say that that man was your dishonorable father?
Well, I had no idea it would come to this.
So Ludwig Flush is your father?
I don't mean anything of the sort. I don't know any deranged person by the name of Ludwig Flush.
But the portrait.
If you must know, there's a hole in the fireplace wall. The portrait fit perfectly, so I used it for covering.
Where did you get the portrait?
Where do I get all my interesting pieces from? At garage sales.
Garage sales?
Your entire line of reasoning is absurd.
But the wheelchair. Well, maybe this will help. What's written here?
What's it say, kid?
Property of the United States Coast Guard.
Coast Guard?
If found, please contact the nearest federal lighthouse station.
But how did it get here?
All sorts of flotsam and jetsam washes up on the shore. Usually it's kept in the cellar, but obviously Miss Fan thought it should be brought upstairs to aid in her ridiculous theory. Haversham, get that out of here.
Yes, sir. Must readjust my deduction. Most unique case.
I'm afraid one of the upstairs windows will blow open. Damage could be done to the expensive Asian imports.
Expensive. You can pick up a Lisa Fan comic for 2 bits.
I meant the carpet. It's rare.
So are you, sugar.
Go along, and take your hat box with you. You're always leaving it about.
Yes, Mr. Maple.
I trust we all realize we could have been wiped out.
You mean if we had eaten the biscuits?
So the poison was in the biscuits.
I'll give you 3 to 1 on the sherry. That stuff will kill you even when it ain't been poisoned.
Do we grasp the seriousness of this situation?
Cut off from the mainland.
No communication.
The storm.
Face at the window walking around.
I think it would be wise if we didn't eat or drink anything until morning.
Until morning?
Until the storm ebbs and we can signal a passing boat.
If still alive.
The poison was not in the sherry or the pastry.
But we all saw the half-empty glass of sherry and the half-bitten biscuits.
Stand up if you would, Mrs. Carlyle.
Ah, a touch of the master himself, Sherlock Holmes.
Magnifying glasses have become quite sophisticated since the days of London fog and hansom cabs. This one, for example, magnifies 20 times. It can also identify odors.
Amazing.
One should never be taken in by appearances. It's a capital mistake to theorize before one has all the evidence.
So?
If you look here, you'll see what I mean.
Why, it looks like a tiny needle.
Correct. Rick Carlyle was murdered by a poisoned dart.
A dart!
I detected the dart about an hour ago. Since the dart entered the body at an almost straight angle, I surmised it came from the portrait. Or, rather, as Mr. Maple has explained, the hole in the wall.
He's right. One eyeball is missing.
We're up against a clever killer.
Either clever or mad, how do we know some lunatic didn't get wind of this weekend party and plan a murderous lark?
Please, you're letting your imagination run away with you, my dear.
Am I? Do you realize I was sitting in that chair?
Oh no, you could have been scratched.
How do you explain yourself out of that one, Flimsey?
I retrieved the vicious little dart, analyzed the poison, and returned the miniature weapon for the purpose of recreating the murder method. Without the poison, it's harmless.
I gotta hand it to you, Flimsey. You ain't no man's fool.
I appreciate that, Chandler.
I still think we should case the island.
I'm ready.
Let's go.
Oh, I'm terrified. What kind of a man could have done such a thing?
Aren't you forgetting something, Mr. Maple?
What?
Poison is a woman's weapon.
Come on. Let's go.
I should see to things in the kitchen, but I'm frightened of every shadow.
Would you allow my humble protection?
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate that.
The name is Fan. Oh, what's the use?
I think it'd be wise if we stuck together.
You mean safety in numbers.
Precisely.
I don't see how that is going to protect us from flying darts coated in poison.
We must admit, though, the killer is a villain of imagination. No pistol shots for this chap.
So you're convinced the killer is a male?
A rogue male, perhaps. Only time can tell.
If you're correct, then you could be the killer.
My dear child, you're distraught.
Or Peter Flimsey or Chandler Marlowe.
Laura, control yourself!
Stay away from me!
Somewhere.
I thought I heard you talking to someone, Mrs. Carlyle.
I do that when I'm nervous.
Would you like a sedative? You must be exhausted.
Sleep is the last thing I want. At least when I'm awake, I know I'm alive.
Poor Mr. Maple. He was so counting on a fun weekend.
It's wonderful if you have a macabre sense of humor.
I want to confide in someone.
About what?
Haversham. She's on parole. In prison because of some unpleasantness with a hatchet.
Haversham, hatchet. Yes, I recall the case.
Be on guard.
Thank you for telling me. Oh, Rita, don't forget your hat box.
What's that?
There's a helicopter overhead.
A helicopter?
Undoubtedly the police. Oh, we're saved. We're saved.
You ought to get a look at this.
It's over the house. You can see the lights through the rain and the fog.
Is it the police?
No, I don't know who it is. They put a ladder down, though.
A
Saw it
ladder?
swinging in the glow.
A ladder? You mean they're dropping someone down in this weather?
That would be insane.
Who would be foolhardy enough to descend upon a house of murder?
The name's Hayes. Charity Hayes.
Charity, baby. It's Chandler Marlowe. We met down in Mardi Gras down in New Orleans. I know you anywhere.
Charity Hayes isn't your ordinary face in the crowd.
Wait. I don't understand. A helicopter?
I missed the boat. This might be ungracious of me, but I could do with a hot bath.
I'll prepare one.
I'm your host, my dear, and this is Laura Carlyle, and that's Lisa Fan.
Could we hold the introductions till after I've had my bath?
Yes, certainly. Whatever you say, Charity. Right this way. How good of you to join us. You live up to your reputation.
Don't suppose I could get a glass of sherry and a biscuit?
I probably wouldn't, actually.
What a girl. What a package of dynamite.
Remarkable young woman.
Exceptional. What's the matter with you, Laura?
That voice, I know it anywhere. It's MABLE DUPRE.
You say you knew Charity Hayes from the past?
Yeah, I met her down in Louisiana.
Oh, Louisiana. How romantic.
It was actually kind of muggy. I got mildew in my gumshoes.
I must say, I'm quite disappointed in Lisa Fan. All that nonsense about Ludwig Flush in the wheelchair. Fortunately for her, the heroine of her books isn't so dense.
I never read much of her. Too soft for me. I like my crime hard boiled.
Murder is not an egg, Chandler.
Bad eggs stink. So is murder. There's been a murder in this house. It stinks.
Well, I had Rita throw an embroidered bedsheet over poor Mr. Carlyle. I thought it was the least I could do.
Gracious dog.
I can be gracious, and I can be resolute, Chandler.
Sorry.
I feel like a human being thanks to that hot tub.
You look like a human being, baby. Not kind of human being.
Chandler here tells me you two met in Louisiana.
At Mardi Gras.
Oh, how romantic.
I didn't think so. The weather was muggy and I got mildew all over my platforms.
Gotta admire any girl who can arrive at a weekend house party in the height of a storm in a helicopter?
Don't call me a girl, Chandler. I'm all woman.
You can say that again.
You heard me the first time.
I must say, I was a little disappointed when you didn't arrive at first, and then I was relieved.
Relieved?
I mean, since we're all apparent targets for some deranged killer.
You mean Rick Carlisle?
Oh, he's not the killer. He's the victim.
What's anybody doing about it?
We're doing what we can. We're not drinking anything or eating anything.
Lisa Fan made some preposterous deductions that did nothing but cloud the matter. The woman is a buffoon.
Everyone seems to be taking the murder calmly.
I am not taking it calmly. I've been down to the wine cellar.
What of it?
There's a body down there.
Well, naturally, there's a body down there.
Or unnaturally.
Rick Carlisle.
He's dead.
He won't get any deader.
You don't understand. He's really dead.
Have you been sampling some of the wares down in that wine cellar?
That was all part of the game, all part of the charade. I thought he'd wake up later and tell us it was all a big joke.
Murder is never a joke, Father White.
Did you miss the part where Flimsey said there was a poisoned dart?
Murder!
Sit down, Father White. You're weak in your kneecaps.
Straught. Fun and games are one thing.
Yeah, we know. Murder is quite another.
I like realism as well as fantasy in my charades, but I trust you don't believe I would go so far as actual murder.
I don't know what to believe anymore.
Can't see a thing. The fog is like black ink.
Oh, murder!
What's the matter with him?
It's just got to him that the corpse in the wine cellar is a corpse.
Would you mind explaining that?
Oh, real murder!
It's the worst kind. Incurable.
Looks like you're gathering for a council of war.
I've asked the others to join me, although I do wish they'd get here soon.
When honorable host requests, honorable guest
Oh, do
complies.
shut up, please.
Lisa, I'm gonna tell you something. I don't believe anyone actually talks the way you talk.
Does anyone know where Laura is? Why isn't she here yet?
She had a bit of a shock.
Shock.
Well, someone murdered her husband.
She took that standing up. I'm not talking about her husband.
He's talking about you, Miss Hayes.
What have I got to do with Laura Carlisle? I don't know the lady. Read some of her books. Not my brand at all.
You're more like me, baby. Ear to the city's asphalt.
Leave my ear out of it.
Ah, how good of you to join us. Please, sit.
I'll sit over here.
As you wish.
Got something on your mind, Mr. Maple?
Like I said, Chandler, I can be gracious, and I can be resolute.
Steer the resolute, then.
Quite. Ladies and gentlemen, I must apologize for the strange turn of events that have transpired at Ravenswood Manor.
It's not your fault.
The point I wish to emphasize exactly. I don't want anyone to believe that I would stoop so low as to engineer this misfortune.
Why would we even think such a thing?
You mean we might suspect that you were out to publicize your new brand of bookstores?
What bookstores?
Well, isn't that why we're all here? To make sure our books get on the shelves.
I am here as a tranquil weekend guest. Nothing more.
Nonsense.
You go right to the heart of the matter, Charity.
Well, I don't like to beat around the bush here.
Wait. So you all knew what I was planning?
What if we did know? No harm done, is there?
Why don't you ask Rick?
Rick who?
The dead man in the wine cellar.
As Miss Fan would say, must get the choo-choo train back on track. My reputation as a host has been impeccable.
Until now.
Alas, we have no choice but to remain on the island. Is that correct, or isn't it?
Correct.
We're stuck here till dawn.
I will not have my party ruined by an unknown killer whose motives or motive are as yet unrevealed.
Huh?
I will not bow down to any sinister forces. Nothing will change. The charade will continue. I'm sorry, I got carried away for a moment.
Why continue?
I want the killer found so he can be punished. Murder is one thing, but the ruination of a weekend party at Ravenswood Manor is quite another.
We are detective writers, not the police.
The police would only bungle the case. Besides, Peter FLIMSEY has already shown remarkable talent in deduction.
I've been prowling around on the scent.
You have a great deal of faith in us.
Oh, pooh. I've already explained my theory. Detective writers often make sleuths like themselves.
Only more so.
Exactly. And that's why I've called each of you here, because you're all the best in your field. Now prove it. Find the gatecrasher, and let his apprehension be a warning to all other social bores.
Well, I wouldn't call a murder a social bore.
Well then, who else but a bore would do such a thing?
If all else fails, at least we could get a pretty good yarn out of this.
Yarn?
A book. I got a title already. Murder Walks the Fog.
Island of Evil.
Mystery in San Francisco Bay.
Corpse in the wine cellar.
Mad weekend.
The sooner the beast is caught, the sooner we can hand him over to the police for a minimum of publicity.
Publicity like a door. Works both ways.
Then we're agreed. We will not bow down to the intruder. The charade will continue.
As you wish.
However,
Yes.
to assure you that I'm not frivolous in my desire to catch the monster, I will award an honorarium to the one who smokes him out.
How much?
$25,000.
$25,000?
You have until sunrise.
Oh my.
I think he means it.
He means it.
He won't stand for anyone disrupting his weekend house parties.
Well, if I find out who did it, I wouldn't be adverse to publicity.
Your kind never is.
My kind.
Why are we standing here talking? There she is. There's the murderer, Mabel Dupre.
Mabel,
Easy, baby. It's not the Dupre day.
You're making a
It's
mistake.
Charity Hayes. Take my word for it.
Don't let that phony wig fool you. It's Mabel, I tell you. It's Mabel.
It's Mabel?
Take off that wig. Take off the wig.
Chandler, do something!
Control yourself!
It's my own hair, you idiot. Now, what was that all about?
You'll have to forgive her. She's not herself.
She mistook you for her arch rival, the infamous Mabel Dupre.
You still pack a mean wallop, sugar.
I can take care of myself, Chandler.
I think we're making a great mistake.
In what way?
I think the clue is in the recording.
If it is, there's a woman behind it. I can feel it.
In other words, Laura, you mean cherchez la femme.
Huh?
Find the woman.
What woman?
It was that famous detective, Monsieur Jackal, and Dumas the Mohicans of Paris, who first used the phrase.
Who?
Wearing his green spectacles and constantly dipping into his stuff box.
Oh.
Forever saying, cherchez la femme.
Then you agree with me?
Surely, you all know that Monsieur Jackal was the literary ancestor of all the great ferrets, from Victor Hugo's Javert to Doyle's Holmes,
Victor who?
and years after Hacksaw.
Hold up. What's a ferret?
I don't know any hackshot. What's he talking about?
Your education in the history of detectives is sadly lacking.
Interesting you used the word history. That suggests the gentleman in the portrait, Ludwig Flush.
Okay, I understand the recording accused me of murder.
Yeah.
Easily explained.
How?
Well, since I've I've never actually murdered anyone real that is, that meant that the recording had to mean a popular character in one of my books.
Yeah, I recall. Didn't you have a character by the name of Jumbo, a great gumshoe?
I got bored with him and knocked him off, in print. There was a public outcry and critics said I murdered Jumbo.
In much the same manner, Doyle caused a sensation when he killed off Sherlock Holmes.
Interesting, but it's not getting us anywhere. I disagree. Most interesting explanation suggests other...
It's getting chilly. I thought someone might need an Afghan. I'll put them in the bedrooms too.
We won't be doing much sleeping.
Gets quite chilly on the island.
First time I have seen her without that hat box.
Curious you mention Hatbox. Recall the case of the Headless Horseman.
Yeah. Didn't the jockey get murdered by his girlfriend during the Kentucky Derby?
Why did they call him the Headless Horseman?
You mean...
You mean...
Miss Islesborough looks amazingly like the missing girlfriend, a female addicted to hats. I noticed the similarity as soon as I entered Ravenswood Manor. I'm not worried about a missing girlfriend.
Don't say it, my dear. It is too dreadful to contemplate.
I'm worried about the murderer of my husband.
Never mind about that. I think we need to lay out a plan of action.
What do you suggest, Chandler?
Well, me and Cherry, we'll tackle the wine cellar. And Lisa, you and Father White go over the upstairs with the fine-tooth comb.
I do not possess such an article. Oh my gosh. A small joke?
If it had been a big one, it wouldn't have been any funnier.
What about me?
I'll take Laura with me. We'll check around outside.
Is that wise?
We'd better stick in pairs.
I mean to go outside. The storm?
Just keep thinking about the 25 grand.
Let's go outside.
Come on, Lisa.
You lead, I shall follow.
Stay close.
I'm sorry about the wig.
So's my scalp.
Cherry, baby. Here we are, together again.
Keep your mind on your own work, Chandler. Ravenswood Manor isn't Mardi Gras.
How about a little kiss for old time's sake?
Which way's the wine cellar?
It's down that way. Come on. Charity, give me a kiss. Come on, sugar, I'm waiting. Big hug and kiss for old time's sake? Call that a kiss? You!
I ain't no lover, girl!
You!
Well, who do you expect?
Where's Charity?
Down the hall? If she's going to the wine cellar, she won't get in.
Why not?
I locked it.
Well, you can unlock it then.
The key's by the door.
Haversham! Haversham! Hello? Anyone about? What was that? I'll read. That'll quiet my nerves. dear. The case of the curious caretaker. I shall never forget the night I arrived at Skull Island. No one was there to greet me with the exception of Miss Midwinter, the housekeeper, a woman of stern countenance and an iron will, and I was terrified. Perhaps if the boatman had not been blind and mute, some of my fears might have been lessened, but alas, that was not to be. Why was the bell in the abandoned tower ringing, I wondered? Did it foretell some dreaded happening? It wasn't the warmest of welcomes for a governess of 16. What would I encounter here in this strange house of ancient rock and dark emotions? Who's there? Who's there, I say? No, wait!
Hurry!
I'm right behind you.
Another moment and we would have been drenched.
If our killer's outside, he's a fool as well as a madman. What?
Look, he's fallen asleep like an innocent child.
Should we wake him?
No. He needs all the rest he can get.
I left this note beside the bed, in case I disappear, in case I turn up dead, 'cause I know they're coming for me. Oh, they're coming for me. Oh, they're coming for me.
What's the third reason?
I forget, but it'll come to me. We've searched the entire house. No sign of any intruder. Maybe the others have found something outside.
Not so. They remain upstairs.
They were supposed to remain outside.
The rain forced them in.
What did you two discover?
Well, there's an embroidered bedsheet over the dead body.
Perhaps the killer, in a gesture of contrition, placed an embroidered bedsheet over the deceased.
It is a bit extravagant. After all, a plain bedsheet would have done just as well.
I suggest we consider the motive behind placing an embroidered bedsheet over the cooling body of Rick Carlisle. Perhaps this will lead us to the killer's identity.
Y'all belong in a museum. Mr. Maple had Rita toss a linen over the victim. Golly. Park it, sugar.
One less clue to consider.
It ain't raining so much as before.
Gotta watch that Haversham. She'll sneak up on you when you ain't looking and steal a kiss.
I don't steal! I don't steal anymore. I'm reforming.
What are you talking about?
Hello? What's the matter with him?
Who?
Mr. Maple?
Bless me. I didn't see him sitting there.
He's awfully still.
He's napping. He needs rest.
Where's Flimsey?
Washing his hands?
Out, down spot, out I say.
Huh?
Shakespeare's Macbeth. Act 5, Scene 1.
Lady Macbeth.
Attempts to wash away the blood of guilt.
Huh? Why would a man wash his hands after just entering a house from a storm?
Well, maybe they were dirty. He don't look right to me. Who? Who we've all been talking about, Mr. Maple.
He's napping, I tell you.
Shouldn't we wake him?
Old people need sleep. Let him be.
Any luck?
Nah.
We have found out exactly nothing.
A figurine. It fell off the mantle again. It's broken like the first one.
Most unusual.
Does anyone have any ideas?
About what?
About anything.
Why don't we get up a rubber bridge? Excellent.
Splendid.
Outrageous! Didn't any one of you realize that I had been murdered?
We thought you were asleep.
Shots rang out, I was slumped over, and a figurine fell off the mantelpiece. And you thought I was asleep?
What's going on here?
I'll tell you what's going on here. I had Haversham fire off a couple of blanks to test your reactions, and you all failed miserably. Ladies and gentlemen, you disappoint me profoundly.
So, you were carrying on with the charade, right?
That, Charity, is self-evident. Since everything else has proven to be slightly absurd, I'm starting to wonder if the man in the wine cellar is truly deceased.
He's deceased.
Take our word for it.
I shall see for myself. Haversham, get the key.
Yes, sir.
Idiots!
I hope this doesn't mean he'll give up the idea of the bookstores.
We better think of something to calm him down.
You must be famished. Here's some food that's sealed in its container. We might eat that. No one could tamper with it.
I am hungry.
I'll see to it at once.
One moment.
What is it, Miss Tan?
The name is Fan, not Tan. Lisa, Fan. This is a fan. Think of fan. Cools one off on a hot day. Fan. Understand?
I'm not a child. You had something to say to me?
It must be obvious to all. The killer is one of us. I will explain. Why would the sweetheart of a heartless jockey take a job at Ravenswood Manor?
Are you talking about the horseman murder again?
I am.
He was not heartless. He was headless.
I believe Mrs. Islesborough was the jockey's sweetheart.
That's ridiculous.
I suspect Rita Islesborough was also the sweetheart of Rick Carlisle. And when he wished to end their friendship, he was struck down, as was the heartless jockey.
She's not.
There's the murderer.
You can't mean.
Fascinating and unscrupulous.
She's.
Mabel Dupré.
What's everyone staring at?
You are Mabel Dupré. You murdered Rick Carlisle. Lisa, I do not want another mistake. Here is a photograph from the newspaper.
of the unhappy jockey and his mad sweetheart. Rubbish.
Note the positive resemblance?
Case is solved.
Lisa,
Yeah?
the woman in the photo is a black woman.
No wonder,
Miss Osborough is not a black woman.
no wonder your books are going out of print.
Let me see.
Oh, you are not the mad sweetheart.
Maybe I'm not sweetheart, but I'm certainly mad. Furious, you fool!
Unless the hat box belongs to the jockey's killer?
Why are we all sitting here talking about the headless horseman when Mr. Maple is angry with a lot of us? Rita, forget this. What did you call her?
I called Miss Fan a fool.
Please forgive the fool and fetch Mr. Maple from the wine cellar.
You ought to be locked up. You're a menace.
Lisa, I gotta hand it to you. You're one in a million.
You do get a bit carried away. 2 wrong deductions in one night is quite enough.
When all the hens cluck, who can hear the rooster?
I agree with Lisa on one point.
What is that, Chandler?
The killer is one of us.
Why was Rick the only one to get it?
Get what?
The dart in the chair. Oh, I'm sorry, Laura. That was tactless. No fear, though. I put a piece of metal plate behind the portrait. The passageway the deadly dart took has been sealed.
I do wish you'd stop talking like one of the characters in your lousy book.
I wish the dawn would get here.
Give it time.
He's dead. Quite dead. There can be no mistaking it.
I think I might be able to shed some light on this grisly affair.
Pitch in.
Haversham.
What about her?
Rita, what I told you was in confidence.
I don't think we have a right to keep it a secret any longer.
You mean about Haversham's police record?
Wait, how did you know?
I told Mrs. Carlyle.
Haversham isn't homicidal.
What about the unpleasantness with a hatchet?
Hatchet? Ah, so we are back to the hat box.
Nothing of the sort.
Haversham, hatchet. I recall the case. Didn't she break into some safety deposit boxes by chopping through the bank's outer wall?
She made some such attempt.
But I didn't get away with it. And I've done my time. I'd appreciate it if you all talked about me when I was in the room. It's only polite.
Murder and politeness seldom go together.
Will this cursed storm never end?
I can see where this is going to take a strong and logical hand. I think I can shed some light here too.
Please do.
So, we're all agreed that the murderer used a tape recording to lay out his plan.
Carlyle's demise was proof.
Proof of nothing, except that he was marked for death. Remember what I was accused of?
Murder?
Only in the figurative sense. What about it, Lisa? What about the night in Tokyo?
I know nothing.
Remember the stakes? Survival?
I'm thinking of something sinister.
What?
There's one figurine left on the mantle.
If our killer is going to strike again, he'll have to do so before daylight.
I hope no one will say no one will leave this room.
The night in Tokyo does not refer to a holiday in the East. A rival writer was to use it as the title of his new book. I used it first. He never forgave me.
My murder wasn't real. Night in Tokyo is nothing more than a book title. And what about you, Mrs. Carlyle?
Me?
Yes, what does Tulip signify?
Tulip was the sweetest little dog you ever saw. We wanted to buy her, but the pet shop owner refused. He was going to sell her to a ruffled army major, so Rick and I...
Dog nappers.
We changed Tulip's name to Napoleon so no one would know. How would it look on the social page?
And what dark secret is yours, Chandler?
The recording said you couldn't escape your past, that you were guilty of foul crime.
Do I have to?
Chandler.
Well, before I was a detective writer, I had another job.
What was that?
Well, I was a literary critic.
Critic? There's no sense asking me what happened in the plain fields of Eton. I haven't the slightest idea.
Don't you see? The recording is a joke. These crimes aren't real crimes at all. Indiscretions, perhaps, but nothing more.
While I was playing jokes here and there, someone else was doing the same with the recording then.
That's my guess.
Bad.
But who did it?
Well, we don't know if the murderer and the tape recording are one and the same. We need to find out the killer's identity. Who had the motive and who had the opportunity to knock off Carlisle? They had to know the house.
Could it have been the man in dark hat and scarf?
Who?
A moment before I was shot, he was in this room. Didn't I tell you?
No.
It must have slipped my mind. Do you think it was someone playing another little joke, enjoying the charade?
Let me go on with my deducing.
Please do, Chandler. I have faith in you.
So, who had the motive and who had the opportunity?
Chandler, for goodness sake.
What's that?
It's a telephone.
There is no telephone on Turkey Island.
It's coming from over here, the desk.
There's no telephone on the desk.
Try the drawer.
Answer it. Ravenswood Manor.
Who is the caller?
What did they say?
I'd rather not repeat what I heard. The language was crude.
An obscene phone call? At this hour?
Who had the motive and who had the Let me handle this. In the detective game, we're either a firecracker or a fizzle. This is Chandler Marlowe speaking, pinhead. I have ways of tracing phone calls. When I find out who you are, I'm gonna rearrange your face. You're gonna be breathing through your navel. You think you're man enough, huh? You just remember my name. Chandler Marlowe.
Mr. Marlowe, would you mind explaining that?
Well, all part of the charade. You wanted us to keep it up, didn't you?
But the telephone rang.
I got a relay buzzer in my pocket.
Shall I
Oh,
answer
do
it?
shut up, you silly girl.
Better tell it all, Chandler.
Rita, what do you have to do with this?
I'm Chandler's secretary.
You?
When Mr. Maple advertised for a social secretary for 1 month, Chandler had me apply.
I already had my invitation, and I thought it was a great opportunity for some laughs.
Murder is no laughing matter,
I kept
Chandler.
needling Lisa about the Headless Horseman. She thought it was Rita who done it in.
Interesting theory, but Lisa Fan is not buying it. The hat box undoubtedly contains the blow-dart gun that silenced Rick Carlisle. Behold, the murder weapon.
What's in there?
A head! A head of cabbage.
Oh.
Cabbage?
I called you a fool before, and that's what you are. All part of the gag.
Head of cabbage is food for thought.
Everything seems to be falling into place.
You forget one thing, Miss Hayes. Father White. He never confessed to any indiscretion, and he knows his house inside and out.
What makes you say that?
I saw you coming out from behind that wall. There's a secret passageway back there.
Secret passageway. Now we're getting somewhere.
Chandler's quite right. Interjection. We cannot see the invisible crocodiles that swim in every glass of water with the naked eye.
What are you talking about?
Or the invisible snakes that swim and play in every spoonful of soup.
Soup?
Or the dolphins that jump in every drop of milk.
What are you getting at?
It's the type of nonsense he puts in his books. No one can understand.
I merely wish to point out that in deduction, we must apply a microscope of the mind.
Yeah, whatever.
Because there's no point in keeping up the deception. Truth of the matter is, I'm not Father White.
Impossible.
Who are you?
I'm a strolling minstrel of sorts. You may say I'm an actor.
I never invite actors.
They are doing a new show on Father White, so I persuaded the real invitee to switch places so I could get inside the mind of Father White. to see if I could act and
All right,
react.
all right, all right. That's enough of that dribble. Invisible crocodiles, indeed.
But what about the secret passageway?
It's not a secret passageway. The original owner had a flair for eccentric architecture. It leads up from the wine cellar.
Oh, is that where the other entrance is?
Did you know?
Ravenswood Manor isn't my real home. I merely rented the place for a few weeks for the purposes of this weekend house party.
Listen.
It's a helicopter.
Maybe this time it is the police.
Can you see it? It's too dark.
Is it over the house or over the dock?
I think it's on the north side of the alley.
We could signal it with a flare.
Hey, out the kitchen, that way.
Signaling this helicopter in, it could be our last
We
chance.
must get its attention.
Wait, look!
That's him, the man I was telling you about.
Good Lord, Rick Carlisle!
That's impossible. You're dead.
I never saw anyone deader.
I thought too of a little joke that would be amusing. Instead of one Rick Carlisle, there would be two.
Two? Rick's twin brother, he's the one in the wine cellar.
I was gonna confuse everyone and be in two places at the same time. Only someone got to me first and finished me off.
You mean your brother, don't you?
That's right. Only the murderer didn't know he made a mistake. So I decided to stay out of sight and learn what I could.
What did you learn?
Nothing.
I'll take it from here.
You are the murderer!
How can anyone be so consistently wrong?
You'll take what from here?
The investigation. I saw Carlisle with his twin in town. Carlisle's brother was a con artist. If he was coming to Ravenswood, he had plans to rob. Flimsey owed me a favor or two, so he was no issue.
My brother was no good. That's true. He did agree rather quickly. I should have suspected.
The pickings would be good. Some jewels, some wallets, who knows what else.
If you're not Peter Flimsey, who are you?
PHARAOH Link.
The job detective on the Frisco force.
That's San Francisco. Can't you get your foot out of that wastebasket?
I'm trying.
Well, everything has been explained satisfactorily.
Not quite.
It was all a fun little exercise, and now you see it, now you don't.
But who killed the man in the wine cellar?
Let me answer that.
Who are you, Miss?
Mabel!
Mabel, oh Rick, you are the murderer.
If you say that one more time, I will murder you.
I mean business. I killed the wrong man, but I won't make the same mistake a second time. No one leave this room.
Where's the real Haversham?
Probably in Canada by now. I gave her $200 to take my place.
Well, I won't be able to give a very good report to the parole people.
I wouldn't shoot.
He made a fool of me! No one walks out on MABLE DUPRE. I've killed one man already. What does another one matter?
Rick's is gonna shoot.
Let go of me!
You're a wonder.
Woman!
Police helicopter's flying around outside to see if I need assistance. I'll have an unexpected passenger. I'm taking you in.
Look, it's dawn.
That means the boats from the mainland can arrive oversafe.
Come along, Mabel. You've got a date with the jury.
I won't have anything to worry about. Not if there are 12 men on that issue.
Rick, I don't want to be this place another moment.
Let's go.
Let's get our stuff and let's get out of here.
Well, I didn't bring any luggage with me, so maybe I can hitch a ride with PHARAOH Link. He's my kind of man.
What about me? How do you like that? Should have known better than to trust a dame.
Rita, see if you can get something on the machine besides static. I hope they'll send someone for the body in the wine cellar.
I'm sure they will.
What a night, what a night.
We interrupt this program of light chamber music to bring you a special bulletin. A dangerous murderer has escaped from America.
Rita, you can shut that off now. We don't want to go through that again.